Right. I think we might be 1 minute early, but why not start since we have a couple of people here already? So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for the fifth episode of AAL MICS, which stands for Major Innovative Constructive Showcase. So, we're really lucky today to have our featured guest, Stefan. So, I'm going to give a short introduction of him and also of his company, and I'll leave the longer introduction to him. So, he's a chartered civil engineer and founder of the venture capital-backed construction technology company Civils.AI. And before starting Civils.AI, I believe, Stefan, you worked for Arup and you designed tunneling projects like Singapore's Cross Island Line in Singapore and Crossrail in London. And Civils.AI automates construction documents and drawing data extraction and trusted by multiple well-known consultants and contractors and developers. So big welcome, Stefan.
Thank you, Adeline. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Would you like to supplement to my introduction and maybe also tell us what are you working on recently?
Yes, sure thing. So yeah, I'm Stevan Lukic. So as Adeline was saying, backgrounds as a consultant for Arup. And then January 2022, I left my corporate job behind, having taught myself coding for about 5 years. And then just jumped out into the world of tech startups. I joined a program called Antler, which is a bit similar to the TV show called The Apprentice, if you've seen that before. The idea being there's about 100 different contestants who have like some ideas on businesses or startups, in particular like tech startups. And then the objective is like you pitch your idea to this panel of investors and you have like a shot at getting some investment from them. So yeah, I left my corporate job behind with this kind of idea that I had at the time of Civils.AI, met my two co-founders on that program. And then
on that program, you met Mirko and the other co-founder.
yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. So it was kind of like a Dragon's Den situation.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, the pitching part's a lot like the Dragon's Den, but on the run up to the Dragon's Den part, you have some different challenges you have to do. The idea is they try and see who will make good teams before you eventually sit down and like try and do your business.
And was it then when you guys secured the investor interest at that program?
Yeah, that was like the initial. So there's different stages of the startup investing, and that was known as the pre-seed funding, where you get a sort of initial sort of check to start the company and to fund your mainly like funding your own sort of salary and like cloud costs and things like that. So yeah, we've since that was 3 years ago now, so it's a bit past us, but
okay, I see. Well, that's very cool, and congratulations. And I mean, it's been 3 years, and it's grown to be well. I mean, just today we've met your co-founder, Mirko, in Hong Kong. It's obvious that you guys have grown from Hong Kong and aiming big to go global. So tell us a bit more about the structure of the company and what is the goal here? What is the mission statement?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the structure of the company, we're really lean. Fortunately for us, we started the company about 6 months before the whole rise of like generative AI and all of these coding tools and, ChatGPT basically. So for us, doing a startup has been a bit different probably to the times gone by in the past, where a lot of the work we can do with a smaller team. We don't need to hire as many people. So in total, we have like 12 staff today, mainly software engineers and some sort of data labelers as well. But we don't really have much of like a sales staff. It's mainly like founder sales and sort of sales for our website. So we've been like really lean. I think it wasn't really possible before all the AI tools arrived on the scene. And yeah, we mainly target today consultants and contractors, and our software is for extracting data from construction documents and drawings. So basically an RAG type tool, but we built it into different workflows for various tasks on the project. So one being for extracting like contractual clauses from the contracts to like de-risk the contracts. Another for extracting this geotechnical data, which is basically to create like underground soil models. That's another one. And now we're working on CAD. So we've been working on CAD for quite a while because it's such a challenging problem.
Exciting. That's really exciting.
Like quantity takeoffs, basically.
I hate CAD. I'm so happy that you're doing this. All jokes aside, though, I mean, I share the mission statement. I think I'd love to go into details a bit more and excited to see your presentation demo in a bit. But just about the mission statement, I think we're aligned, and a lot of contact startups are aligned. It's just we've been working with such old ways of working and not just dealing with the technology barrier, because actually the technology is there, but we're dealing with a lot of human barrier as well. Like the admin team has to buy into the fact that there is a higher ROI if they implement a new technology. But first you got to show it to them and you got to prove it to them. And then everyone is too busy to start implementing something new, right? I mean, that's the pain point of this industry. And that's why I'm very supportive of any teams that actually have, work towards that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think one experience we've had is like some people say I'm too busy like experiencing the pain of some process than to have the time to like find out about how to do it like an easier way. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've definitely had that case before where some people have said to us, I'm too busy with actually solving this on the project at the moment than to test like what you guys are
Yeah,
offering.
yeah. Although when you're rushing for a deadline and when you have milestone payments, in sight, it really is quite difficult to take time for R&D. Actually, I'm also quite curious about the attitudes, the different attitudes that you experience. So I know you are from the UK, I believe. You grew up in the UK. Correct me if I'm wrong. And now you're stationed in Singapore and also venturing into Hong Kong. Well, I say venturing, you guys have actually taken out quite a bit of market already. And then so my question is, what's the different attitude in Europe versus in Singapore versus in Hong Kong? How accepting are people in our industry, let's just say in our industry of taking up AI? And I will tell you also, I just share my experience after you answer this as well.
Sure. Yeah. So when we started the company, we thought we understood what the market dynamics were, and we've actually been, I think, quite wrong in what we thought at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought that Europe, initially, we were like targeting Europe quite a bit, despite being in Singapore. So we're targeting Singapore, and then our second market was like Europe. Actually, what we found is that uh, Europe's not a great market to target, I think, with AI products right now. For our experience, there's been a lot of pushback. We've even had like one or two customers who started with us, who then their IT departments put a ban on any type of AI tools across the whole
Yeah.
company, which is really surprising. We've not had that once in Singapore, Hong Kong, or the US. We've never, and in fact, like there's more of a ramp up. We've had people contacting us asking, are we using AI agents? Because they want to use AI agents for something. Like there's not necessarily a specific goal in mind, but they're just interested
Right.
in like wanting. We've had very little of that type of excitement from Europe, but there's a lot of talk going on. I think there's a lot of talks happening there, but not
Yeah,
much
yeah.
in terms of implementation. So for us, we've like really just doubled down on like what we found mainly with Hong Kong, especially in particular, is that if you actually can prove like an ROI and you can, and it's practical and you can demonstrate it, people were
Yeah.
willing to spend on it very quickly if it works. Whereas what we found in Europe is there's a lot more of this data, like all too many people involved, too many policies, and too much
Sure.
bureaucracy.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. How about in Singapore? Oh, sorry. Did you mean like in both in Singapore and Hong Kong, people are quite acceptive? I also wonder what is the major difference between Singapore and Hong Kong's attitude in the market, or is it more or less the same at the moment?
I think there are some like differences, but I would say that generally, if you can prove to like the project manager, or there's just like it seems to be less people involved in the kind of buying process if
Okay.
something works. Like I think
Okay.
if you
Okay.
reach the project manager or the director who's managing that budget, there's less of these kind of like third parties involved in the
Right.
decision compared to Europe anyway. I think the
Right.
US is also slightly similar. I think people can make decisions faster and like use the company credit card more easily.
Okay, okay, fantastic. I would actually my experience is quite similar to yours. I just came back from France with a couple of meetings and the attitude is the same. In fact, some of them are not open to use anything outside of their own country actually. So I was quite shocked to find out that was kind of the expectation. Well, this is great. It's very good chit chat, very good 10 minutes chit chat. So now I believe floor is yours, Vaughn, to show anything you want to show actually. I will leave it to you to share the screen. Thank you.
Okay, sure thing. And if anyone from Europe is listening in, I'm sorry I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
to. Okay, right. So I'm going to give you a quick, like, let's say 20-minute walkthrough of some of the features of Civils.AI and just explain how it evolved. And because the tool is basically, it's just evolved from like day one, we built it into these different workflows for various things. So it's a web application, so app.civils.ai. You can log in and then create projects. So this could be a project which you're working on. And on the left-hand side, you have different types of documents you can upload. So you can think of Civils.ai as being a document repository, which is connected to different workflows, which we've built for tasks that come up on the projects. And so once you've added some documents, we have our typical RAG search tool up here with, you can type in your queries and search away for different things, like, for example, restrictions on concrete placing temperatures, and our system will like flag up or search across these documents, like drawings, for example, and tell you what these requirements are based upon what it's read on these, like, if you've looked into this problem with the RAG information retrieval, it's easy to get started, but then there's a lot of like nuance, and these documents here on the left are quite complicated ones, especially when you start working with drawings and labels. And so we built this RAG engine for retrieving that type of information, but then we built it into different workflows for various tasks, which go in some cases a lot deeper than just that initial like search. So one such example, the first one that we started with, was for extracting this geotechnical data. So these are logs of what was, before a project starts, they'll take some samples of what's under the ground. And then here you'll see things like clay, sand, and basically this is a log that was sent through to the consultant. And then what they have to do is manually type all this information out row by row. But with our software, we can extract these complex tables out into a sort of geospatial database. So here's some different test types that were extracted and the different layers of the ground. And then what we built on top of that is a way for them to visualize the data. So these logs were from Singapore. And so we have this tool for them to create their section through the site. So we can create for them this 2D site model. So you go from like the PDFs. So for this workflow, you go from like the PDFs to this editable chart showing the cross-section of the geology without any need for manual transcription or typing things out. And they can use this to generate their model, download it as the CAD file or a PDF. So on some projects we've helped with in Hong Kong, we've helped with quite a few, like not sure if I can name them, but yeah, we've helped with quite a few there with this, where they have tens of thousands of these, and we help them to get that data out into their modeling software. We've also got some tools for viewing it on our platform as well. So you can see here like a breakdown of all this geology, like this is where the sand is across the site. So this was the first workflow we actually built, which is for the geotechnical data. Then we've been quite focused on pre-construction stuff. So we've built tools for extracting data into Excel, also for doing contract risk assessments. So the idea is you upload your documents. Let's say you want to review the risks in your contract. We have this workflow here for extracting that information out. So you select your contracts, whichever contracts you have, these will be the terms that we're like reviewing it against. And you can add more items to this list. So let's say I don't want to know about insurance requirements. I can remove that one. I can type something else in here. And this would be a checklist of the things I want to check. And then you can hit this run button up here. And then this will process. It will take maybe 20 seconds or so to run. But then the concept is you have a kind of report generated. So you can download this as a Word document, and it goes through one by one. So scope of the works, it takes you to the contracts section, which has scope of works listed. You can go to payment terms. And again, this would show you how where the payment terms are in the contracts with these citations. So this gets used for the thing with what we've built here is that it's quite flexible. We've built these workflows so this is like the borehole data one. That's how that gets extracted. So we've built these workflows for different tasks, but the idea is you can also build your own. So you can just select even drawings. So here I've got just the one drawing on this project for some reason, because it's a dummy project. And then I can type in here the questions that I have in terms of like a checklist on that drawing, and hit run. So we're trying to double down on the drawing data extraction. So for now, we can extract different types of data from CAD drawings, but it's mainly limited to labels, notes, and tables, and those kinds of schedules they have. We found it very hard to be able to do actual quantities. Like if you say, how many doors are there on this project? The way we approached this was text-based. So we weren't able to do that for a long time. But then we've doubled down on the CADs recently and done a lot of research and development. So next month, we'll actually be doing quantity takeoffs. So in August, we'll have launched our quantity takeoff workflow. So I'm really excited about that one, when that will be ready. But for now, like in terms of CAD QA checking, we can do it, but it's limited to, so there's plenty of information on CAD drawings, which isn't just relating to dimensions and dimensions and kind of spatial information. There's a lot of, in some cases, some drawings have these big specification sheets. So we've been helping some contractors in the bidding stage where they have checklists of all the things they want to cross-check. So like this is a concrete subcontractor, let's say, wanting to see what types of concrete are used on the project. So they can create a workflow with this checklist and basically run it through Civils.AI. So looks a bit like this with the various terms that were being searched for. So that's one of the other workflows we've been doing. We've also been doing schedule of rates. So cost data. People have been using Civils.AI to pull out rates from the data sheets. So things like what's the pricing of certain objects from big schedules of rates. So they don't need to go through manually themselves the rates tables. And then one of our ideas in the future is, can we link this cost data back to the quantities that we're taking off and kind of create the bill of quantities together. So this was it in terms of the workflows for the project. So I guess the way you can think of us is a bit like a document repository, but it's connected to workflows which are more specific for construction related tasks. And then we've also got another feature, which is libraries, which is a library which you can create on Civils.AI. And we've already got a pre-built library for the Hong Kong codes of practice and the Singapore codes of practice. So this one I'm showing you right here is the Singapore codes of practice, and things for like fire regulations, things for the transport agency requirements for the transport projects, more like nature projects. So the way we've built this is you can actually type in a query you might have up here. So door clear width. And then our system you can also click these one by one. Like you can click URA development control. But what this will do is it will look through these various codes of practice, and it will tell you which ones have some clauses relevant to this search term up here. And then we also generate a short summary of what each code of practice has to say. So the fire code says that the door clear opening should be, a minimum of 850 for access, no access doors. Likewise for accessibility, so this is for more like disability access, it should be 850 millimeters. So you can kind of see what each code of practice, and this is like a different version, this is like the 2025 version, has to say on a particular topic. This is quite useful because sometimes they can contradict each other. And then the idea is, if I say want to know what's the detailed breakdown of what the fire code has to say on this subject, I can just click this and it will then generate me the detailed breakdown. So it will not just like give me this short summary, it will show me with the references each thing to do with the door clear width across this document. So you see a lot of it's on page 47, but there's actually some other pages here. So it's kind of cross-referenced to other sections. For example, door in path of travel has some particular requirements. So it's sort of brought those into the results. And then if I close this up here, it will actually take me back and I can go into the next code of practice. So I can go one by one. And it's proven to be really popular with architects in particular, this feature for searching the codes of practice. That was a very whirlwind tour of Civils.AI. Is there anything, Adeline, you want me to show or go more into?
This is fantastic. Thank you for running through most of the features with us. I want to ask about the rates, because Let me think about my own experience. Okay, the cost of material can be in flux at times. So you need a database and you probably need you need to link up to real-time data, like ideally. Is it working like that at the moment? For example, let's say because of the war, the cost of certain materials had inflated, and therefore the bills of quantities has changed now for the power caps, for example. I don't know if what I'm asking is making sense, but can you tell us a bit more about how does that process work inside civils?
So at the moment, it's very static. So it's mainly been used for checking variation orders. So
I
when
see.
a variation
Hmm.
order comes through,
Hmm.
they've got like big tables of rates, hundreds of pages long, and they're using this to pull out the specific rates that are relating
Yeah.
to that element. So the idea being on the left, you select which
Yeah.
items in the variation order, and then you're able to like quickly cross-check against the rates tables. In terms of like more benchmarking,
I
like price
see.
benchmarking, we've have had people ask, can we connect this to like the web and have it like pull information in as well for
Mm-hmm.
checking? But we've not done that yet, but
Mm-mm.
maybe in the future.
Sure, no, but what you said is very clear. It's good for VO. It's good for VO. Maybe in the future it could help with the tender process. Who knows? I mean, with the real data, that would help with putting together the table you just showed. Makes sense. So I think we have some audience here from other parts of the world, not just in Hong Kong, probably some from India. So if they want to use the COPs, like the code of practice, how do they go about with that?
Yeah, sure. So you can actually create libraries yourself. So we've created one for Hong Kong and Singapore, which is already preloaded with a bunch of different codes of practice. So we can just enable
Hmm.
that for you. But if there's some like region where you want to have a code of practice and you don't really want to do it yourself, you can actually also just let us know.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, you guys will become globally known, I'm sure, very soon. So perhaps you get more of these inquiries. This is very useful. Tell us, please, how many people are using Civils at the moment, and which feature is the most used?
At the moment, well, we have 32 customers, well, like in terms of companies, and
Hmm.
then I'd say probably at the moment we have I'm not actually sure to be honest. Maybe
No
500 or
problem.
something people who are
Yeah,
like not using it all at the same time, but who
yeah,
are like routinely using it. I would
yeah.
say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think why don't you show us how can someone start using it? And while you're flipping to the relevant information, I would say that from my experience, the higher up management will not be the first people to try out Civils or any other new tool. I believe that a lot of these new tech coming in, new tools coming in, new apps, the ground level, the frontline workers actually start to use them. And sometimes they would be so frustrated at their work that they will start actually using it themselves first and then eventually ask the company to subsidize the use of their tool. And then when two or three or more people in the same team start using the same tool, the company would actually be then convinced that they should actually get on top of an enterprise package. So
Mm.
this is what I've seen so far. And I believe that you guys are also allowing for that flow to happen. Therefore, you have a more of a gentle try. You do have a trial, I believe, and then you have a 1 month monthly subscription.
Yeah, we do. We have like an individual's license, which is $60 a month, which gives you an account on Civils.AI, which is quite new. We've only been doing that for 3 weeks now. We released that. But yeah, like what we designed Civils.AI for is like more the actual working level on the project, people who are like
Mm,
doing work on the project day to day. We've not really built it for very like higher like director level or higher level
yeah,
people, which comes at a bit of, because I think that most of the value in terms of if you enhance productivity or build a tool for people, I think a lot of the value can come from building it for people who are like your engineers, engineering level, architect level.
yeah.
But the challenge with that is that you need those people to like champion you to the bosses.
Exactly, exactly.
Mm.
Champion you to the wallets basically. And that's yeah, absolutely. Well, But that is why I think if it really works, then it will happen for the company. So in Hong Kong, I believe more and more people will be using this, and this will be told in near future. But I believe that now working together with you guys, there will be a discount code which we can share with our community and audience. So if anyone here is interested to use this, we can share something nice very soon. So I think we're doing very well with the time. Stefan, is there anything else you'd like to show on your screen? Otherwise, we can go on to our next section.
Maybe just to also just say that you can also, with these projects, so the first thing you do is you basically create a project, you upload documents like I was showing. But once you've built up quite a few, you can actually do this sort of search all feature where I could say, pull up which are tunneling projects, for example. And again, so I can search across on the library view this time. I can search on across my different projects. Let's say I want to know something where each project that was using stainless steel, something or the other. I can search then across this archive of projects. So you're not only like using it for, you're not only using this for one project, but once you've started working on it for a few projects, it turns into this way of like searching back across all your old projects as well.
Right. Fantastic. Quick question. How long does it take someone to start learning how to maneuver the platform?
I think it's kind of intuitive. Like when you first log in, there's some like thing that takes you through like how to use it. But the idea is you create a project. It actually creates one for you when you first log in. Then you add some documents. So you can add drawings, for example. You upload them here, and then straight away you can start like doing these workflows. Even when the documents are just uploading, you can start to create these and click like run. So that's about it.
Okay, good. Looks good. I mean, it all makes sense and it saves hours, honestly, hours or even days out of a whole year potentially using AI. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stefan. So, all right. So, I'm very curious to know, Stefan, how did AI change your career trajectory? And I'm asking this because it changed mine. And I think a lot of people who are in the audience or who will be listening to this recording later on, they're startup founders. So can you, or even just like not startup founders, like just people using AI, it might also change their career trajectory or path. So can you share with us how did it change yours and did it change yours?
So I think now is the best possible time to ever like do a startup or to learn more about technology, because I don't think there's ever been a time where information has been so accessible. I think there's like two camps on the how people think about AI. There's one side which thinks that it's like the most enabling technology that's ever been created, and another which I think is concerned it's going to like rot everyone's brain and we're all going to be kind of regressing in some way, or there's not going to be like original content or something anymore. But I think I'm really strongly in the first one, where I think it's going to just like empower us a lot more. So we've been trying to use AI where we can for as many things as possible. And like, I think the key to it today is to try and find what is the strength, understand the strengths and the weaknesses, and where you should sort of step in and have some human in the loop. So the way we've been using it the most is for generating first drafts of things or looking through. So with startups, quite often we'll get sent some kind of contract or something that you've never seen before, because it's all like, I've never done a startup before this. So quite often there's new experiences happening all the time. And before having, the ChatGPT like premium license, I would have really been worried about signing some things that we've signed or like understanding the way everything works. So it really helps you to not necessarily give you the answer straight away, but understand how something might pan out or what the different situations could be. So for me, it's been really helpful in that regard. And then in terms of Civils.AI, we're really lucky because we started like about 6 months before ChatGPT. So after that happened, all of the search engine results all just like went a lot higher when that arrived. Because it wasn't as popular before then.
So it just changed your career like 180 degrees, it sounds like. Not surprised, because now you honestly, it's just rocketing, right? So if you have the opportunity to start all over again from day one of Civils.AI, and you have this opportunity to tell yourself a piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different ideas. One is, I think it's better. We went quite hard on the marketing in the beginning, and we tried to
Okay.
really,
Okay.
we just had a lot of energy, and I think we wanted to try and reach as many people as possible. I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's better to go to a smaller group of people with any new innovation or anything, any idea you have. Sometimes it's better to just like have a small group of people who really love what you're doing than
Okay.
to try and push it to lots of people from the beginning. Because I think we were
I
just quite
see.
hungry and we thought the more we speak
Yeah.
to people, the more we reach out to everyone, the more opportunities we'd get. But looking back, I think it might be more helpful to just like work with a smaller group of people at the beginning and make it really, really
Mm-mm.
good for them.
I see. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that you share that. I think for us, I think our strength, I dare say, is to reach as much as we can, is outreach. And that's also kind of why we're where we're at right now, which is kind of a, how should I put it? What AL is doing is to bridge. I think that's the best word, bridge. Like companies from Silicon Valley or good companies like yourself in Singapore and bring them into the Hong Kong market and going further to the UAE. So interesting. I think that's also something food for thought for me. All right, bringing into a new tech, you bring a new tech, new way of working into someone's existing system. What's the most painful challenge you've come across so far? Or you can give an example if you like.
So I'd say that yeah, I'll give an example. I think like educate if you're bringing some new innovation or some new technology, whether or not it's in your own company or like as a tech startup, I think that
Yeah,
there's a lot of education that's needed if it's really new. If it's something
yeah,
that people haven't have just read about it or heard about in the news, and it's not an existing product that they've really like tested before, and you're
yeah,
creating a new market, I think it's a lot of education. And
yeah.
for us, we get a lot of like discovery calls, like people
Mm,
who look at what we're doing and go, "Oh, that's quite interesting," but
mm,
they're not really like in the like if you have some CAD
mm,
software, let's say you're in your firm, you have some CAD software, the license
yeah.
is going to expire for the CAD software. You really
Mm,
need like a new license for that CAD software or
mm,
some other CAD software. And you know what CAD software is. So it's
mm.
just a case of you shop around or you just renew. The thing for like a brand new product is that people aren't necessarily like in the market for buying a new because they've never had it before. So you
Yeah.
have to do quite a bit of education. I'd
Mm,
say education, but like demo and giving trials and letting people
yeah.
test because it's a new tool and it's something that you're kind of like they're trusting you to see
Hmm.
if it's an investment that's worth them making.
Right. I see. And
Yeah.
that's time and effort from you guys to tell people this is a new way you can do things. You can automate contract documents now in a fraction of the time that you used to do. So please buy into it. But maybe they will still have doubts, or maybe a lot of people, and I'm sure you know about the of the barbell diagram where you have the innovators and then you have the late majority, etc., and then you have the late bloomers. And a lot of people wait to see the rest of the market, everyone else using it, and then they will feel confident to use it. But by the time you've used so much energy and effort in educating them.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of examples throughout history where people have been like late adopters and they've been kind of punished for that, and it's kind of moved on. You know, one example would be what you see on like high streets, or not so much like in Singapore and Hong Kong, but definitely in the UK, where there's big e-commerce. Everything's on Amazon now. People buy everything
Right.
online. So those who haven't like made that transition to having digital stores and selling on Amazon, they're now like a lot of really struggling with their brick and mortar stores because
Yeah.
more people are buying online. So there's a case where, and I think like, that's one example, but I feel like with AI, it'll be similar. I think firms that really
Mm,
reject it and just completely like ban using ChatGPT, ban like all of
yeah.
it. I think it could work against them in the long run because when people like when it's more widely adopted, there'll be twice the cost,
Mm,
and that's when they'll find
definitely.
out they need to adopt it.
Yeah, definitely. I dare say it's almost suicidal to ban AI at this stage. And how would you use one word to describe success? Just, any definition of your own. Just this is a question we like to ask every guest, actually.
Yeah. You actually sent me this yesterday, and then I had like an existential crisis thinking about. I was trying to imagine, but actually, I think it's quite fleeting. I feel like the pursuit of happiness. I feel like success is something similar, where it's like just a moment, and then quite often
Okay.
people. I don't know. I feel like with anything where you've had some success, I think quite often you're briefly happy, and then you think, oh, what's the next challenge, or what's the
Yeah,
next
yeah. Then
goal?
you want more.
And it's more like the journey, I think. It's more about like the struggles on the
Okay.
journey than the actual outcome.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's nice. That's also new. That's not something someone had said yet. All right. And what are the next steps and what are you looking forward to?
So for us, we're really busy with the CAD data extraction part. So we're
Right.
doing the quantity takeoffs. So it's a really interesting problem.
Yeah.
Trying to solve it from like a natural language point of view is really challenging.
Okay.
To turn that into like a set of kind of operations which are
Yeah.
measuring, counting. I mean, to do that from natural language, there's a lot of things that need to be controlled. So we've been looking at
Mm.
that problem for a long time, and then I think next month we'll have that like on the market as
Mm.
part of like Civils.AI. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm really busy with at the moment.
Okay. That's very exciting. Fantastic. So gonna open up to the audience, I see there is one question in the chat. Before going to it, just quickly two things. One is that for those who didn't hear me saying this before, there will be a special code, special AL code that would allow you to try out Civils AI with a small discount. And then there's also another thing where AL is pushing out a design competition with a real client, and Civils have been so kind to sponsor 1 month's use for the winner. So there you go. All right, now moving to the question in the chat. So thank you, KW, for asking this. He's or she is asking any functions of Civils AI related to works progress charts or construction program. Okay, a lot of people have been asking me this, I have to say.
Yeah, we've looked into it. I'd say that it does work to a certain extent. It's another thing that we need to like go more deeply into. So like I was saying with the CAD data extraction, that's one
Yeah.
workflow, which is we have to build it for that specific type of data to understand it has to be more controlled than just the typical RAG search. So I'd say for programs, again, I think it's actually slightly easier for us to do than the CAD data. But again, it's like we have to build a vision intelligence model for
Yeah.
reading construction program sequences.
Mm.
So for us to build that, it's basically like data labeling. We have to get a bunch of construction programs and then draw bounding boxes around the elements we want to
Yeah.
extract. So we will do it, but at the moment, I'd say it worked. We've had one customer where they were helping with COVID related delay claims, where they
Okay.
were using a lot of construction programs and meeting minutes, and they uploaded all those documents to Civils AI and then used it to kind of go through this arbitration, these questions they needed for this case. And it worked well for them. They were able to get the answers that they wanted. But I think in terms of really detailed checks on construction programs, it wouldn't be very reliable to do that.
I see. I see. So I think it is possible, and you've done something similar, and it's down your pipeline in the future to make it into something that is part of your platform.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So this is also the answer I'm going to give to people when they ask me as well. Do you know something that can help with construction program? Fantastic. So anyone else would like to ask a question? Here's your chance. Oh, there's another question. Oh, two more. I'm going to read it out. So Colt, I believe, is saying, thanks for sharing. You mentioned RAG CAD is under development. Do you have aspirations to integrate AI with BIM? Okay.
Okay, I'll be totally honest. When we were looking into doing CAD data extraction or BIM data extraction, we looked very closely at whether or not it's better to do it for BIM or for CAD. And we chose
Mm,
to do it for CAD because one thing we heard from a lot of architects we spoke to actually was saying that a lot of the BIM models they use are created in order to produce the 2D CAD drawings. And the 2D CAD drawings is what they pass on. But when in terms of the actual BIM model itself, it's not got enough information. It's sort of created in a way almost like an illusion to create the 2D CAD drawings. So they said we would prefer to work like if you're going to do CAD data RAG to do it based on CAD rather than BIM, mainly for
mm,
that reason that it's just more ubiquitous, or it's more like just the most like kind of trusted form of like communication, and that BIM, it will be that, but it's not really like that fully at the moment.
Right.
I'm sorry if I've annoyed anyone who's like really into is really like, I'm also really supportive of BIM, but I think we will do it. But I just have this feeling that it's not quite ready for what we wanted to do in terms of like the takeoffs right now. And
You're right. Yeah, I think, if we talk about Hong Kong, a lot of people talk about BIM using Revit. The government's very supportive of it. But in reality, the number of people using CAD is still, I think, more than the people using BIM. And a lot of companies actually outsource or get their own Revit team to handle the BIM process, whereas the rest of the company actually still remains on PDF or CAD. So it's the 2D to 3D, like there's still a gap. There is still barrier to implement BIM 100%, and perhaps there will never be 100%. Perhaps people will just jump from PDF or CAD to AI, and maybe BIM will be something else.
just on that,
Yes,
just
yes,
like one final thing as well. I think
sure.
like here in Singapore, there's a thing with the submissions being in IFC. Like it's not right now at this stage, but it will be soon, and it's kind of being beta tested for
Yeah.
submissions on government projects to be BIM. And then there's a system which is being built around that called CornerX to do compliance checking on the BIM models to see do they match the codes of
Oh,
practice. Really like amazing, interesting stuff. And
yeah,
then like one aspect of that is that if the BIM model is, used correctly and that's the end goal for it, actually a lot of these processes like quantity takeoffs, other things that you need to do could be based on the BIM model because the quality of it will be just so much better.
yeah.
But whether or not that could work without that like support, that kind of ecosystem, like if you're, in other parts of the world where there's not that like ecosystem and that push to do it, whether or not people will naturally do it though, I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Just to let you know, in Hong Kong, if you want to do a submission to authority, you have to print it out in hard copy. And then if you want to make changes, you need to hand mark it. Like you have to hand with Tipex. This is how we do it now. And if you want to send a letter, you need to fax it. By the way, I think that's the same era as Abraham Lincoln, the fax machine, and now. Anyway, it's just an interesting fact to share there. So, next question. Thanks for the great sharing, Stefan. This question is from Chloe. I find the tool really impressive in how it streamlines reading and analyzing data. I'm curious, do you see Civils AI evolving into a kind of design assistance beyond document reading? For example, could it eventually help with code checking, run comparisons, or making coordination suggestions with contractors? Thank you. That's a very good question.
Yeah, I'll show you something which is like our long-term dream for like Civils AI, which is I'll just share my screen again. So this is the way we are thinking about our like future, much further ahead vision, which is you see on the left different types of documents and information on the construction projects. You have, I know there's more than this, but let's say the codes of practice, your project documents, and
Yeah,
then I'm just saying that there's lots of digital information as well, including the BIM model,
yeah,
GIS data, things that have already been like digitized. But in red, these are the things which are not digitized and they kind of
okay,
prevent automation on the project. So it could be like your
yeah,
contracts, your specs, these clauses in the codes of practice. All of it is like unstructured and it's like PDF data. This
yeah,
information is already digitized. You can do a lot more interesting things with it. The way we view like Civils AI in the future goal is to unlock this unstructured data and bring it into the same world or the same ecosystem as the digital data, like the BIM model, GIS
mm,
data. And then in the future, to be able to, once that's all digitized, to be able to do real kind of automation with it. So one will be compliance checking. So linking the BIM model up with the clauses and the
mm,
data which we can read from the PDF codes of practice. So retrieving information relating to BIM elements and the
yeah.
metadata and like cross-checking.
I see. I see. Thank you, Stefan, for sharing this. I actually think I understand Chloe's question. Kind of like, and also relating to what you were sharing there. Basically, there's a process where, let's say a design build project where contractors hire the architects, or just architects after they draw up their own schematic design or detailed design, they hand it to the contractor, and then they have a point in time where they have to compare the shop drawings to their own design drawings and to make sure that both drawings, well, both sets need to comply to the code of practice, and also the contractor's drawings or shop drawings basically need to relate and respect the design that is the design drawings. And this process sometimes is quite annoying and painful. And sometimes there is also a third party called the checker, which needs to come in and check the drawings, whether or not they are complying to the codes. So basically, and then on the other hand, the contractor might also have a team to do so, like to check, I mean. And then the government side, maybe they also have another team. So you have like 3 or 4 teams doing the exact same thing. So do you think what you were showing us just now, the dream you say, can actually help with this situation?
Yeah, I think the part of the discrepancy checking is another problem in its own right, away from like
Yeah,
quantity takeoffs. That's something
yeah, that is.
else which we like, ourselves or someone else will need to solve in the future. But I think like the steps
Okay.
and the direction is that's where we would like dream to go.
Yeah, sure. Too many problems, one at a time then. I think that's what it is. I think this is also the kind of conversation we should keep having, always calling out the problems and then just keep talking about it until we solve it eventually. And then let's see. So the last question we have here from actually our CTO, Anne. So Anne is asking, do you plan to get involved in BIM data workflow in the future? Currently, we feel a lot of data is locked inside BIM ecosystem and hard to benefit professionals outside of the system. What do you think? I think you answered some of it.
Yeah, I have. So just like on the slide I was sharing before, I
Yeah.
think that yeah, BIM is something we definitely want to bring in, especially in relation to checking
Mm.
against codes of practice and project specifications. I think that would be amazing, and I think that that's what RAG and generative AI could be really good at, because quite often the BIM data are like IFC files. I think that
Yeah.
the structure of those can work quite well with RAG as well, and LLMs do have some understanding of the kind of syntax or the format of the IFC. So I think it's definitely possible. Another, like on that same topic, another interesting one we've been asked about quite often is enriching BIM data, which is looking at the BIM files and then also looking at some other documents or some project information,
Yeah.
kind of feeding that information into the BIM model to make it more complete.
Right.
We're not do that ourselves, I think, but I think it's a very interesting use case for generative AI as well.
Great. I think we do have time for one last question. If there's anyone who wants to take this opportunity and ask Stefan one question, anything about documents, automation. I think today we had a very good conversation actually. I think we went through the core of civils, and I think even myself I understand a bit more about the starting point and the direction in which you guys are heading to. And I also think the questions being asked are very intelligent. Here comes another intelligent one from Anne. She would like to know, would you like to share a bit more on how to utilize AI to help with value engineering in the future?
Okay, so I think that it's not necessarily a very generative AI angle, but I think there's a lot of scope for more like traditional AI methods for sensitivity analysis, which is running calculations like multiple times, but just changing like the parameters a little bit. So you change the parameters a little bit and then you create like a kind of envelope of like the results for different
Yeah,
cases. So you could change like the building width or the building height slightly and like see how sensitive the results are to different cases. So I
right.
think that once you have more of the data digitized, you have that like connected in. I think there's a lot of more value engineering you can do to sort of still work within the specs on the project
Yeah,
and what the limits are, which are set in all the tender specs, but you can kind of like test, if I change this particular like property to something
yeah,
else, is it still compliant or not? I think AI would be
yeah.
really good at doing that.
Kind of like parametrically to test until there's a good one. Okay, yeah, makes sense. That's a good answer. Okay, Stefan, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you so much for leading us through your process and showing us what you've been up to. I think it's very enlightening and it's a very good tool, I have to say. We endorse it. And if anyone has any questions, would you like to be LinkedIn or would you like to be emailed?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best, or speak to Adeline and you can get a discount.
There you go. Exactly what he said. Okay, thank you so much. And if anyone wants to see the recording, it will be uploaded on YouTube shortly. So thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
bye
everyone. Bye.
everyone.